at the edge of an international border, at the edge of the Pacific, at the edge of innovation, community, education, and discovery. You're listening to At the Edge of It All, a University of San Diego podcast where USD experts speak on topics and stories that impact you and the broader community. Hello there, I'm Elena Gomez.
And I'm Cameron Zeck, and joining us today on the podcast is Bart Thompson. He is the head coach of USD men's rowing team. Bart, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, really honored to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
And I'm excited for this podcast because I was a coxswain for a long time ago.
Not that long ago.
Yeah, at UCSD.
We're about the same age, so it was a long time ago.
At UCSD, graduated 2010. So I feel like I love getting to know different rowing people, so it's great to have you here.
No, as a very niche sport, anytime I meet someone who is also in it, it's pretty exciting. So yeah.
And you're coming up on your fourth season here at USD, but not long before that, you are on a very different path. Tell us a little bit about, your background.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone has their own journey, and for mine, it was, I guess if you want to go far enough back, so I grew up predominantly in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My dad is a neurosurgeon at University of Michigan Hospital. Big Catholic family, oldest of 7 kids. Played all the traditional sports growing up, and then got into rowing in high school. My dad always wished he'd rowed because he had some brothers who did and some friends. And had a really good experience there. I went to an all-boys Jesuit high school in Toledo, which is like 45 minutes south of Ann Arbor. Got recruited to row. I rowed up at Stanford, but I really didn't get to row very long while I was there. Unfortunately, I had a back injury. And my other sport growing up had actually been lacrosse. And the way rowing, kind of created a load on the spine, it was a lot harder to row than it was to play lacrosse. And so when I had to stop rowing, which really, was unfortunate, it was not fun, I ended up just switching and doing that. I did that through the rest of college. I went back and did a volunteer year at my high school, and I was planning to go to med school. I'd been pre-med in college. I was a history major, but I was pre-med. And I was not planning on coaching rowing, but I was doing this volunteer year of service at my all-boys Catholic high school. And they were like, well, we need help in the rowing team. And I was like, okay. And I just loved it. I mean, I loved the opportunity to get to be really present to guys in this formative time in life. And you have guys who would ask me things anywhere from the mundane and silly to the really intense. So I had a guy once, my first year, coach, how do you ask a girl to homecoming, and questions like, that. And then guys being like, coach, my parents are getting divorced, or I think I'm gay, or whatever, really like the range of things. And just to be present in that space in their lives was really cool. And we had some good success in the 2 years I was coaching there, but I was like, well, I decided I wasn't going to go to med school. I taught my second year out of college. I taught at my high school, and was like, well, I probably need to get a real job. So I moved into the corporate world. I worked for basically like a Fortune 500 kind of company that does healthcare IT software work down in Kansas City, which is where my parents are both from originally, is Kansas City, Western Kansas. And, I was really blessed. It's a great company. Again, I had a lot of family there. Really a lot of why I moved there, my grandpa was in his last year of life. We kind of knew that he was in the latter stages of cancer, and so I got to be there for what was in hindsight his last year. So that was really great. But I thought the coaching thing was behind me, and then I get sucked in and co-found a rowing club, and then I help a college team co-found their club program, and pretty quickly I'm coaching 5 to 7 a.m. with the college some days, and then 8 to 5:30 with the day job, and then 6 to 8 with the high school kids. And then you go home and flip the laptop back open to do more work. And I wasn't even getting paid for either of the 2 coaching jobs in the early morning and the evening. I just loved coaching. And then I had a good friend who told me in Thanksgiving of 2016 that Adrian College, which is a D3 school in Michigan, was starting their program. And it's about 45 minutes from Ann Arbor. So got hooked into that, applied, got the job, and had really started up that program. My first year, I think I drove 14,000 miles, just hitting different practices every day, because we didn't field a team the first year. I just went out to recruit and build the team. And and then started that team that following year, fall of 18. That was the 17-18 school year where I was recruiting only. So fall of 18 started the program, and we said we want to win the conference ideally by our freshmen that first year when we were just basically freshmen, by their senior year, and we were really blessed that we ended up doing it a year ahead of schedule. We won the conference my third year there, entered 4 events, won 4 events, and then USD reached out later that summer, so this was 2021, and said, would you be interested in coming out here? And I said, yeah. So so I started coaching right after college, started full-time coaching about college full-time coaching about 8 years ago now, and like you said, it's my 4th year now at USD, and been a really great blessing. Yeah, I've really loved it.
It seems like opportunity kept coming for you to be a coach. And you said at one point you were doing this for free. So what was it about coaching? You talked about the kids coming up to you and asking questions and kind of you sort of being a guide for them. Is that what kept you interested in coaching and kind of continued on this path? Because the opportunities can come, but there has to be that interest too at the same time.
Yeah. I think for me, so faith is a huge part of my life. I'm a Catholic Christian, and it's been a big part of my life. Praise God, as long as I've kind of been in my life, and again, raised oldest of 7 kids, big Catholic family, and in the Catholic tradition, you would talk about they talk about vocations. There's capital V vocation of religious life. Are you priest, nun, whatever, married life, or single, and I'm married, have a family, so I would say my big V vocation has been discerned, but I feel like my little V vocation, my lowercase v vocation, has been coaching, and I was really fortunate to have the job I did in the corporate world. It's a great company, since been sold to Oracle, but at the time it was the largest employer in Kansas City, like almost 30,000 employees, and a great job, and I was doing pretty well there. And certainly would have been the more traditional path, but I just felt like this is where I was being called to use my skills. I think for me, so when I decided not to go to med school, I actually applied and got into grad school for a couple of programs that are very similar. One was LPC, Licensed Professional Counselor, and one was MFT, Marriage Family Therapy. And, I feel like kind of that element of getting to be present and kind of heal the heart is important. And I have my next oldest sibling, my sister, is a marriage family therapist, and my next sister after that, master's in social work. So I think those are really important careers, but I found, and I think counseling and therapy are really important things, and great needed professions. But I loved how in coaching that compared to that career path, coaching, you just get to be there in a really organic day-to-day way every day. And then second with that, I think sometimes as a coach, I can say, hey, that's not a good idea. Hey, that's not going to bear good fruit in your life. Hey, here's the standard of how we expect people to conduct themselves. And, I think for me, it's that element of you get to love kids, but then you also get to really love them through challenging them. To me, the definition of love is willing the good of the other. And so as a coach, sometimes willing the good of the other is being really present to them in those challenging moments. If we tell the parents of our recruits, it would be an insult to say we're going to love your kids the same way you do as a father. I know that, but we're going to do our best to do this as if you were here. And so if a kid's, in the hospital or whatever, we're going to be there with them, even if it means we got to be there all night. Or at least I'm going to be there with them. And I've had to put my money where my mouth is a few times in that space. And but at the same time, then I think because when you love kids like that, it gives you the opportunity to then challenge them, and they can see that it's coming from a place of this person really just desires me, again, as we talk about with our recruits, to not just dominate on the water for 4 years, but to dominate in the classroom and in all aspects of your life, and then go out and dominate for the next 40 plus years as a husband, as a father, as a citizen, as a professional. And I think, for me, that element of getting to be a part of kids' lives and in that way where you're caring, but you're also calling them on, you get to coach hard, but love even harder, I think is really, really cool. So, we'll see, they say if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. But certainly I feel like this is where I'm meant to be.
And you touched on it a little bit, but rowing is really demanding. And I remember from, my days is from the beginning of the school year all the way. So we start in September to June.
Yeah.
We were 6 days a week practices, 5:30, 6 a.m. down at the boathouse, 6 days a week. And then you have the afternoon practices. And then on top of that, you have all of the college classes and everything.
Yep.
So it's a lot. What do you tell your athletes to kind of help them balance both the athlete life and the school life?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I say to them all the time, if I felt like the things we were teaching you only had applicability in as far as this rowing career, I couldn't do this job. And I definitely couldn't do this job and ask you to hold the standards you do. But I really, really believe that the things we're asking them to do are going to make them successful in other areas of their life. It's part of why I love it is I truly think, and you've been around rowing, and those who've done rowing and done other sports, I think would generally agree. Again, I'm a football, basketball, soccer, hockey, baseball, lacrosse, love all of them. But it's, in my experience, the hardest sport. And like you said, the work on its own is hard. And then you add in getting up at, 5 a.m. to be at 6 a.m. practice. And then you do, and then it might be chilly or wet or, just like physically exhausting and a lot of hours. And, I think that, and then you get on top of that, the fact that, for a lot of programs, you're not on scholarship. A lot of men's programs don't have that resource, and you're not a highlight player. I mean, the best you can do in rowing is by not standing out, is by being one of many, of just, moving in unison with everyone else. And so to have that level of commitment with no real glory, you're not getting money, you're not getting the girls, or it's not for anything other than just the pure love of it. It makes it a lot of fun to work with those kids. And then I don't think it's a surprise that those kids tend to go on and be really successful in other things. And, if I can be really real for a second, my second year here, my wife and I, our first daughter was stillborn. And that happened over Thanksgiving weekend in the fall of 22. And so my daughter Evelyn was born that Saturday. We were in the hospital with, were able to hold her until Sunday, and we went home Sunday. And, I said to my wife, if you need me home all the time this week, obviously that is my top priority, but I think it'd be really good for me to be at practice. And she's like, yeah, I feel the same way. And I showed up Monday morning, and, my team was all aware of what had happened. I texted them through the weekend. And, one thing I talk a lot about with guys is this quote that a friend of mine gave me that I love, which is, emotions are a wonderful companion, but a lousy leader. And I think for a lot of human history, particularly for men, we maybe didn't have emotions as a wonderful companion. You kind of just put them in a box and you ignored them. And I think that there's real challenges there. But I think sometimes now maybe in society we've overshot it sometimes, where we let them be the lousy leader. And so, I told the guys, like, I want to be open and honest. Monday morning at practice, I said, I'm not okay. I'm not going to be okay for a long time. Like, I'll never truly get over that. But I do believe that, like, it's important to me to be here to honor the commitment to you guys. Now, obviously, in between practice, I'm going to spend a lot of time at home with my wife. But, it's me and one assistant coach. Like, the team's going to suffer if I'm not here. And I really think that, that muscle of grit that you build every day, even now, like going to practice when you're tired. And I have a 1-year-old now, and maybe she's, there's about a 6-month period. She was waking up like 6 to 10 times a night and not getting a lot of sleep. But I told them, I said, these are the moments that I think of when we talk about pushing you guys to do the things we ask you to do, is like, it's not fun to say, but the reality is, in a room of 30 guys, it's like someone's going to get cancer at some point in their lives, or their spouse is, or their parents are going to, pass away in a, untimely manner, or whatever it is. And, my goal is that we are challenging them to work through really difficult things so that they can be prepared for those moments. We say all the time, like, again, for me, the way I would look at life, I tell each of them, and I say this a lot, even, I think for college guys especially, it's kind of maybe something they haven't heard much, but especially from a male coach. But I tell them each of you is a beloved, precious, infinitely valuable child of God. And whether you make our top boat or our third boat, none of that changes. That doesn't change your human dignity. And whether, you have faith or not, I think, inherent human dignity and worth. I said, but, your ability to execute the things we ask you to do at a high level does change your ability to be valuable in terms of contributing to the goals we have as a team. And if those are not things you want to do, like you said, like, I know we're asking them to give more time and get up earlier and work harder. Again, it doesn't change your human worth at all, but we don't shy away that we are asking for more. And I tell them all the time, like, we want to be elite and we want to have a room of uncommon men. And by definition of the words elite, uncommon, that means conducting yourself in a way most people can't or won't. And so I think, just trying to find people who embrace this idea of pursuing excellence in everything they're doing, with the knowledge and trying to connect it as often as I can, that it's going to make them, if they practice that muscle, better prepared for when like really hard stuff happens in life.
Yeah, it's sort of in line with that of just really setting that bar very high. We'd love to hear a little bit about what you're expecting for your season, what you're excited for, what we can all expect. How's everything going? And how are you trying to reach that high bar of success with your team?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you got to recruit well. I think we've got great kids. I think obviously we have a tremendous product to offer here at USD. I always say, without any sense of hyperbole, I really think we have, obviously the rankings bear this out, the best campus, the most beautiful campus, the most beautiful waterway, the best weather. And weather's nice for any sport, but if you play basketball, you're indoors no matter where you are. For us, we're on liquid water right now. There's places in the country this week it was single digits, and they're not going to be on the water for months. So we have a lot that I think helps provide a natural, appeal to recruits. And then I think we've just been building and starting to see the fruits of that, where, a good example of this is the Head of the Charles, which is the largest rowing regatta in the world, actually, by numbers. On a average year, there's from high school kids all the way up to masters athletes in their 80s, and there's usually 12, 13,000 competitors. My second year, we took a crew. We hadn't gone, I think, as a program in 4 or 5 years, and we entered the collegiate men's collegiate four, and we got third, which tied for the best program had ever done, third out of 40, or I think that year was 39. And then that was the fall of 22. Fall of 23, we got second, I think out of 42 entries or 44. And then this year we got first. So, third, tied for best ever, second, obviously the best we've ever done. And then this year we won, and we won by 27 seconds, which is a pretty big margin. And we've set goals like that, in recruiting, saying to kids, hey, we want to be the first boat in program history to win the Head of the Charles. And now we've done it in the 4, let's do it in the 8. I think for us, contending to medal and win at the Crew Classic, qualifying for the IRA, men's rowing, most sports are sponsored by the NCAA. We're sponsored by the Intercollegiate Rowing Association, or the IRA. So qualifying for the IRA in the 8, last couple of years we've gone in the 4, and we got 19th in 23, and then last year in 24 we got 10th. So, basically jumped up half the field, and I think the best finish in that event we've ever had. So, really strong and continuing to see even better and better results. We had a guy this past summer be selected to the under 23 national team camp, and he was one of only 24 rowers in the country to have that honor. We had another guy who represented the U.S. at the World University Games in the Netherlands this past summer, which I think first active college athlete we've had, not an alum, but while in college athlete to represent the red, white, and blue internationally. So we're definitely on the rise, and I think for us, just trying to get to where we're contending for the Western Sprints title, which has been our conference, as we move into the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation, where we'll be with Cal and Washington and Stanford and some of those really traditional powers, trying to get more competitive with those programs. And just frankly, I think the ultimate barometer is, can we finish higher at IRAs than we ever have as a program? That's the national championship. So, I think you look at any reasonable metric, our erg scores, which you'll know what that means, the rowing machine scores, and we're definitely getting faster every year. But, I tell the guys every year the standard only goes up. And so we just have to keep what was great last year is good this year. And then we got to do better.
Well, Bart, thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast. It sounds like you have a lot of great stuff going on for your team, and we're excited to see where the season goes, and we wish you the best of luck this season.
Thank you so much.
And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to catch our next one.